Ok. Haideți să începem. Vreau doar să înainte să vă urez bun venit tuturor, vreau să vă spun că avem printre noi vorbitori doar de limba engleză sau de alte limbi, așa că o să facem prezentarea în engleză. Sper că sunteți happy cu treaba asta și vreau să vă mai anunț că datorită multelor cereri ale celor care au dorit să participe, dar care nu au reușit să intre astăzi în Zoom, o să înregistrăm evenimentul și o să-l postăm pe YouTube. Ok, super. Deci, bine ați venit. Welcome to the November meeting of our community, customer experience community of Romanian professionals, specialists and passionates on customer experience. Welcome to all our friends, welcome to the newcomers, and especially welcome to all participants coming from abroad, from other countries. So, as you know, we have launched our community 1 year ago with the purpose to know each other, to share the experience and the best practices, and to develop our competencies in customer experience. This is why I would encourage you to be open to say your opinions, to argue your opinions, and be proactive. As we have already shown you during our sessions, we have subjects which are actual and also requested by you, mainly requested by you, because most of the subjects we developed and all the sessions we've developed based on your requests. Our agenda is simple. After a short intro, I will pass to our guests, which I am going to present at the right time. After each session, I invite you to ask questions, ask them questions, and at the end, we will have enough time to debate and to have, let's say, an open discussion on our community. So let's start. During 2022, we had a number of meetings and with very sound subjects, which we put together. We came with projects, with success projects. We came in front of you with customer experience leaders that coordinated our projects. And we promoted the successes and the achievements of the Romanian companies in international competitions. And I will name here only two of them, Mediatel Data and OTP Bank. As all you know, last month you received a larger presentation about their achievements. When we build the agenda of the meetings, we try to answer your requests. And thank you for your contribution and thank you for your feedback. In 2022, we had on our agenda the customer experience governance. It is a subject very close to my heart, and I was the one to present it to you. Ana Iorga talked about neuroscience in customer experience. We talked about development and implementation of Voice of Customer program with Viorel Voicu and Ștefan Dumitru from Stafino. We discussed about trends in customer experience, new perspectives in the culture of the organization and development of the business methods to develop, align the organizational culture based on a customer. A special event we had in October, at the beginning of October, in a Customer Experience Day, which is celebrated across the world on each Tuesday, first Tuesday of October, where we had over 100 specialists and, in fact, participants to our Customer Experience Day. Thank you very much. I will take this opportunity to thank Vicky Lăudescu, Andreea Coca, Iulia Novăcescu, Codinca Raja, and also Greg Melia for their sessions, and also to Gabriela Ciupitu and Ana Iorga, the co-host of our meeting. So for this edition, for November, we prepare you a subject that is that has in the center the customer, the main customer of an organization, the employee, because isn't it employee experience start with customer experience start with the employee experience, the internal customer of each organization. The employee journey is the first step. Then it is the employee experience which we develop. We drive the employee engagement. We reach customer experience, customer engagement, and at the end we have the shareholders' profit. So the quality of the employee journey in an organization, we are saying that it is the one that creating the experience, that it is the driver, the angel of the actions that customer see and receive at the end. From my perspective, employee journey start before the recruitment process, start before the employee, the candidate is coming, not the employee, the candidate is coming in contact with the recruiter. It's much more in advance, and it is the impact, it is the way that the future employee perceives the company. However, the recruitment process is the first experience, the real experience, touchable experience that people have with the organization. This is the way that the organization is setting the scene. And having said that, I would present you our guests today. And the first presentation, it is Madalina's presentation, Madalina Uceanu, which I would like very much to thank for the presence in our event. I'm sure that, well, I don't know who does not know Madalina, even though I would invite Madalina to start by presenting briefly herself. And Madalina, you have the stage. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Adrian, for the presentation and for I'm impressed. I knew about your community, but I didn't know for sure how many actions you were doing so far. So now I see it's pretty consistent community. So welcome, everyone. Thank you for being here, and thank you for the interest in seeing the links between customer experience and other areas, which are actually not so far away and from customer experience. And what I would like to start from is that actually each potential employee, it's a potential customer. So everyone who's coming in an interviewing process, it's actually a customer. And I am very happy that I reached the point being in this HR area where we can talk about this, because I have this in my mind for some years now. And it was a discussion which was ahead of the time for some years, and now it's the time for it, because actually sometimes when you're losing a potential candidate, you're also losing a potential client. So I think it's important to look at it from this perspective as well, from marketing's perspectives as well, because in a lot of situations, HR had nothing to do with marketing. And I'm also happy that this goes hand in hand with the employer branding budgets and initiatives, which are very much welcome from the same reasons. So I hope that we can have a bit of an interaction in this discussion, even though I prepared a presentation, but I would like to draw attention over the fact that I'm very open to discuss about this. I just wanted to put a bit of a frame, let's say, around the concept of candidate journey. Not to leave it outside of the customer experience, because I think that we should look at it from very similar perspectives. And that being said, I would like to share with you a bit of the presentation, or the presentation that I proposed and I prepared for today. And the main focus would be actually to think about it as a way to increase our net promoter score, of course. So how can we use this activity as well for that? And how is this useful also in terms of employees? And what I want to draw attention upon at this stage is that most of the employer branding initiatives are related to the people that we want to attract. like in all the cases, and it's happening sometimes in customers, you're talking about new customers. What about the existing ones? And if we do the parallel, what about the employees? And I know that, going outside, it's only the tip of the iceberg, also in employer branding. The iceberg per se is mainly formed by existing customer base in client service, but also by employees in employer branding. Because actually those are the people who are, doing the word of mouth of promoting your employer brand during beers with their friends, informal talking about what's going in the organization. That's actually the most powerful customer experience and not most powerful promoter score that you can have. And briefly, to tell you briefly about myself, why am I here today? Thank you again, Adrian and Gabriela, for the invite. I had the opportunity to witness the local HR market since '94, so 28 years now, at the beginning of recruitment, and when all the employer branding meant actually small publicity ads on the right side of Romania Libera. So that's how recruitment was done by that time. And people were coming with the CVs physically, sometimes written by hand. So this is where we started from. I still remember when we were calling people on their landlines at home at certain hours because we couldn't find them otherwise. So it was a very interesting time. I had the chance, meanwhile, to work with some hundreds of managers and HR specialists being active in training for a lot of years. And I find that very satisfactory because I still meet them on the market. Recently had the chance yesterday to meet someone who told me, I still remember 10 years ago, you taught me what I'm doing today. And it was, very rewarding for myself. I was doing that as a visiting professor with the MBA and and I've been through the pains of being an entrepreneur. The reason I am through the pains of being an entrepreneur, it's not something that ends, it's diminishing and it's going in cycles. And I used to blog for a lot of years because I have an online project which is called Portal HR. And I used to be quite an addict social media. And I'm mentioning this because I think that, at least for me, that was a very interesting learning curve of being very close to what people are talking and, talking very openly and sometimes, with a bit more openly than they would do it face to face. Because as we all know, when you're online, your courage is a bit elevated, so you have the chance to say more. So as a receiver of some comments and things like this, you need to be able to reply properly. So from this perspective, I had my training in customer experience live, in being in the position of replying quite often to any comments that were done. But before that, I wanted to put things a bit in a context. And the reason why I think it's good to put them in a context is because in all these years, market has changed all the time. And the recent changes are bringing us to a stage where, of course, everyone is talking about generations and the new generations which are coming. And it's talking about the pressures that these are putting in the way we adapt people in the organizations, in the way we adapt processes so that we can accommodate all the generations. And I'm sure it's the same discussion when we are talking about client service and customer service. It's the same thing. How do we do it? How do we make sure that we accommodate all of them? What I think it's interesting, and why I think it's interesting to talk about generations is because I think we should be aware of the fact that this kind of approach, the generational approach, was valid since forever. It's nothing new. I mean, Z generation is just us younger. I mean, it's just the way we were thinking and we were looking at things when we were, 20 years ago or 30 years ago, is just that the level of exposure that this new generation has, it's higher than ours. So, but otherwise, in terms of, wishes, dreams, energy, things are pretty similar. However, what I think is also very important to mention is that, Adrian, maybe you can confirm that when we started working before 2000, working during weekends, going, staying overtime was, business as usual, was nothing outrageous in that. More than that, I remember when organizing trainings, no one wanted to do the trainings during the weekday. All the trainings were done during the weekends, not to take people off the business hours. And this thing changed not thanks to us. I don't consider myself responsible, or I cannot take credit for this change. This changed because of the new generations that have put pressure on organizations and did not accept this anymore and did not want to be forced to do that, and they've put some limits. So somehow the new generations are changing. I think that the impact that they are having, it's also affecting all of us positively. Adrian, you wanted to comment something on that? I hope I'm not the only one remembering those times.
No, not at all. So I can only confirm that those times were really, I don't know how to say, but we were very energized on doing extra hours, working in weekends and going for trainings only in weekends. Thanks God, things changed.
Yes, thank God. And actually, we were very happy because not a lot of organizations were offering training. So the ones which were offering, you didn't ask when, just you were happy that they were offering training. So it was like this. The reason why I wanted to put it in a context is because we need to understand also, the positives, I think, of the way things are happening right now. Another thing that I wanted to outline is the very low unemployment rate, still very low. And it actually, it has been decreasing year by year for some years now, as compared to over, it was definitely 2 digits, but it was over 16, 18, 20% before 2000. So it's a different market. So that should be taken into consideration as well. And why I'm referring to this is because also in Romania, not only that the unemployment is decreasing, but we are decreasing as population. So actually the number of people who are entering the work market is decreasing. And just to give you an idea, we are doing also tech hunting in our business. And we have been watching very closely the IT market, for example, lately. There we have a minus of around 15,000 people. So it's already in some industries, we are talking about already, a lack of sufficient professionals. But anyhow, if we are talking about the whole market overall, it's still a very low unemployment rate, which I'm sure it's even lower in Bucharest. If we are talking about other cities, definitely on the average, we are reaching this percentage, but I'm sure in Bucharest it's even lower than that. Again, another thing that has to do with the context is the disengagement of people, and the fact that people tend to be looking actively for new opportunities. Not necessarily that they are acting on this search, but there is some intention. And also the fact that this disengagement is also related to the post-COVID effects of on our lives, which is not only affecting our professional lives, but also personal lives. And that affects, of course, the way we come across at work. Again, another thing that I wanted to outline, it's the big impact of social media and the way we actually consume. The way we are consumers in this market, because it's a lot of activity online. And I think that we should all be aware of that, because as we all know, it's very easy to say something bad online, and it's usually very easy to, the bad news are spreading easier than the good news. So that being said, what I wanted to move forward to is that generally we do have a lack of interest. And I don't know if you have friends working in human resources, or you have been working or are working in human resources, to learn that the number of people that are applying for jobs, even for job adverts, it's constantly decreasing. And there are industries such as IT where they're only placed for PR reasons. There is no expectation that someone would apply. So that means that we actually have to look a bit at the way we represent ourselves and what we say about ourselves, because what we say can really make a difference. And I would put it even differently. If we don't say, that can make a difference, because a lot of organizations are saying things about them and are communicating. And I just wanted to have an overview about the touch points that the candidate has with an organization, the candidate slash consumer, because it could be a customer, because it could be a customer as well of the respective organization. So first of all, of course, the career site and the blog, if existing. Then, of course, the job advertisements, the way it's presented. I know that it was very trendy, let's say, to have curious titles in jobs right now. And finally, I think that the trend is decreasing, thanks God, because we were about not to understand anymore what's the job about, because the titles were really very creative, but too creative to understand what you refer to at a certain moment. Again, some other touch points are the ratings on external sites. In Romania, it's Unde Lucrăm and the others. Glassdoor, it's actually a very good site for that outside of Romania. So you have a lot of online ratings for companies as employers. Then, of course, you can take a look at the Facebook and LinkedIn of the company, where definitely candidates are looking. What I think it's also interesting, it's that's a channel where you can communicate again about your products as well, and where you can have, and I've seen some situations when on the career page there were some product comments. So there were comments about from the customer perspective, not from the employee perspective. And I'm sure the opposite then also another touch point would be, how do I perceive the people that are representing the company at the career fair, for example, or at a public event where you present your offer as an employer? And I think that's also a thing to remember, that could be a one-time interaction. Interviewing process also as well. What I think it's also very important, and I'm saying that in the recruitment workshops that I'm doing as well, is the fact that sometimes for some candidates, the interview, it's the only interaction that they will have with that organization. So more or less, the interview, it's a PR action, and that's it. And it's that makes it even more important than, setting the stage for doing a proper selection. It's setting the stage for leaving a good impression for someone who can be your customer or not, your future employee or not. And last but not least, the job application process per se. So how difficult it is to log in my details, how difficult it is to, to apply if a company has piqued my interest, how difficult it is to apply. And we are also distributing an ATS locally, and doing the research about that, we've noticed that there is such a lengthy process sometimes, even if you're automating some part of the process, it's important to automate it and make it more user-friendly. But in most of the cases, it's actually complicating the process if the quantity of information that you require from a candidate to offer you before he applies, it's too extensive. We always suggest to our clients, for example, email and CV, and that's it, because you need to make it easy for them to communicate with you as candidates as well, and I'm sure it's the same as clients, as customers. And in terms of journey, as Adrian was saying earlier, I think the journey starts a lot before starting the interviewing process per se. So it's, where does the candidate find information about the company? What's the EVP, the one that I'm talking, the employer value proposition? Is it something that they can relate to or not? Is it something that sounds like, too good to be true? Is it something that links with the comments that I saw on the sites as well or not? Of course, that you can say the comments on the sites are mostly negative. It's true, indeed. However, What I'm suggesting, at least to people who are coming to me with comments about this kind of ratings, I'm always saying, okay, I understand. You don't have to look into details at all the comments, but the trend. I mean, if most of the comments are related to a certain area, it might be worth looking more into details and paying more attention and finding more about that certain area, because probably there is something that either happened or is happening currently in that respective area. It's, I don't know, the office, managers, salary, whatever. But candidates are looking for that. Again, the interest phase, it's actually, okay, now that I'm, they piqued my interest, I might consider joining them. Where do I find the info? How easy it is to locate the information about the company? I don't know how many people there are in Romania, which is the team, which are the projects, what will I do? How will I be treated? I mean, anything that relates to my life in the respective organization or the respective organization, it's important as well. Application, of course, here, as I've mentioned before, it's important how easy it is to apply. If it takes a lot of determination to apply, I might as well give up. So it's very important to make it, as user-friendly as possible. Again, the selection process, how long and difficult is the process? And I was actually thinking about this, Romania is lacking benchmarking, a lot of benchmarking. We don't have benchmarks for a lot of things. So whatever we can do as organizations is benchmark against ourselves. So see how we were doing last year and see if we can improve for next year. But I can tell you that there are still big differences between the length of the process. And now I'm referring to the tech industry because I think it's ahead of the time, and it's some years since I'm saying this. All the other industries should be looking at this industry about what they are doing in terms of employer branding, candidate journeys, and everything, because sooner or later, but rather soon, the other industries will have the same pressure on candidates and will have to adapt very easily. It's just that they adapted sooner, and the most efficient processes are the quickest ones, definitely, which means that they have behind a good process and someone thought about the usability and how can we make and measure some of the things that refer to the candidate experience. And then again, of course, the last phase, it's what would I do if I would got hired there? So the hire phase, because as it is an emotional contract that starts with the company in the moment when I first interact with them, it doesn't end when the candidate is hired. It's actually it doesn't end at all, but it's continued at least until the onboarding process takes place. So making sure that the candidate passed through the first stages of adapting, understanding the new culture, understanding how the things are done around here, and then making sure that he had a good choice. He did the I wanted to show a bit of industry benchmarks, let's say. Maybe you heard about candidate ghosting, which means that they don't show up. I mean, they confirm the interview, or sometimes they confirm they accept the offer and they don't show up. And it's actually an increase in the percentage of ghosting. But what I found actually worrying is the percentage of candidates that have been ghosted by employers. So even though on one hand, we know there are not enough people, on the other hand, we can afford the luxury to ghost candidates. I mean, or give, traditional classic answers. It's as if a client, I would ask, a client or a customer, why he was unhappy, and he's only saying, I decided to leave for another company to use another service. So it's very frustrating because you don't know why. I mean, what should I do to improve? It's the same thing with the candidates when this is happening. That's a study done by Indeed. It's again a platform where you can also find a lot of comments about companies and also jobs. And some of the things that are making actually a memorable experience for the candidate, it's first of all the interaction with recruiters, and great recruiters I mentioned here, a level of seniority in approach, not necessarily in years. but the way you approach the candidate, the intention to make it a good experience, a pleasant interaction. Clear and frequent communication, again, it's key, because sometimes even when you're using an ATS, you get the information there and you don't get, personalized message, or you don't have a phone call anymore soon enough. So it's important to mix, to use the technology in our advantage, or to personalize, which an automation system allows you, very much the communication for each candidate. And then last but not least, the involved managers. And what I mean by this is that what I've noticed sometimes is that managers are sometimes referring to the recruitment process as something which is in the hand of HR. HR will handle it, did not bring me, or they will bring me whatever. But it's like an externalized type of service. While actually it's very internalized, because even if HR is providing the candidates, and usually they are doing this, well, my colleagues in HR are doing quite a lot of efforts in attracting and targeting the right candidates. The manager's involvement makes it or breaks it. In 90% of the cases, the way they decide, candidates decide to join an organization is because of the manager. Of course, the HR convinced them to be there and have the discussion, but the manager decides them to makes them take the decision, yes or no. So I think it's very important to become aware of this. And of course, some potential paths that we could explore. It's first of all, Google your company, and actually, if you're a manager, Google your name as well, to see what Google brings about you, because all the people that you'll be interviewing definitely will do the same. So it's better that and control a bit your public image as well. Another thing that can be easily done, it's recently hired employees are actually a good source of information, even at least asking them, how did you find about us? How did you find the process? Was it pleasant? No. If not, what, why? Then again, being aware of the comments on public sites and not the Net Promoter Score and company media, actually, to see what people are talking, the tone of voice, and if it's generally a positive or a negative or a neutral sentiment. And of course, reviewing the metrics for an ATS. The big advantage of using some automation is you have access to instant data. I can all the time say, for this, our, let's say, benchmark, talking about benchmarks, our benchmark length of the recruitment process is, I don't know, 20 days, but we have 3 departments where it takes 40 days. Let's see why. And we can analyze the bottlenecks, and we can have some open discussions with the managers and ask for their support in making the process more fluid, so that the candidate experience, thus the customer experience, is better, because that's a person who will go back in the market and talk about us. That was the part where I was speaking like a TV, and I hope that from this point on, we'll be able to have an open discussion about the points that I made.
Madalina, we will have open discussions. It was really amazing, the information you gave us. We have a couple of questions. One of them I will keep it for making the bridge to our next guest, Michael Brandt, which I would like to welcome. Michael, welcome to our meeting.
Thank you very much.
And
thank you very much for the invitation.
I wanted to thank you for being here before asking Madalina the question, because it's very linked to your subject. So okay. On top of the questions we received, I would ask you, I make a comment and I will ask you my first question, Madalina. Digitalization came to the first step of the journey, employee journey, one of the first steps, later than to the later steps, because in a life cycle of an employee in a company, digitalization came in different stages later on. It came now at the very, very beginning of the process. I have, in fact, 2 questions. Should we be scared of this? This is my first question. And the second one would be, you know, always with the digitalization, there are positives which are coming, like decreasing the time in the process. But are there any issues or challenges we have to be to be careful on or about?
Thank you for the question. That's a very good one. And I know it's a similar question in everything that has to do with digitalizing or making automated processes or everything or anything like that. I'm very happy that this is happening since the beginning of the processes, and I'll tell you just one reason why. First of all, to start with, for example, if someone is applying for an opportunity, the chances are that if the CV or the profile is not very fit, they will get no answer. Through the automation, you can at least see, if not having, but that's usually what's happening, you get an answer, you know, the profile was not fit for the role, and you know how you stand. I mean, from this perspective, I think it's helping quite a lot the communication. Secondly, I think any digital tool, it's a tool in the hands of someone who actually has to set it up in the proper way. I mean, they are not coming to, you know, to implement whatever. The tool doesn't come to implement anything. We are the ones to decide how to use the tool. So I think it's rather a reflection of, you know, the way the organization is acting. I mean, the usability or less usability of the tool, it's only related to that. So to answer very briefly, no, I don't think we should be scared about it. It should be helpful, because it would allow me easier to interact with the organization without bothering someone in a, you know, in a process-oriented way, in a way that everyone knows, and get the information also from the system. You know, this is the stage where I'm into. If I need further info, I know whom to contact. You know, it's actually opening the organization the respective area. That's the way I see it, and it's helping as well inside the organization. I mean, me as a recruiter, I've done that. I've always done the databases and been responsible with the databases. The reason for that is because the mind is limited and my memory is limited as well. So if you're interacting with hundreds of people in a month, and as this is the case for recruiters, you cannot remember everything. And such a system where you input all the data and everything, and you put your own reminders, it's very useful for me. I mean, I sound knowledgeable sometimes. I would sound very stupid if I wouldn't have such a system. So,
you know, Madalina, it's matching your answer. It's matching extremely well with a session that Michael organized today with Matthew Brandt. The name of the session is Getting Valuable Customer Insight from Data. Customer here being the future employee. And I'm glad that we are in this point. And before going further with the digital question, we have a question from Carmen, saying that she knows that the percentage of actively engaged people in Romania, it's about 30%. What about the disengaged employees? Are Romanian companies aware of the percentage? Are they putting in place strategies to keep and engage their employees? And what kind of strategy? So I know that this is the, let's say, the next step after people getting in the company. However, do you have any insights on this?
Definitely. I know that disengagement is a big topic these days. And as I was telling at the beginning of our discussion and meeting today, I think it has to do not only with disengaging from the companies, but with the general disengagement that we are having towards life. So it's more than what's happening with the organizations, in my humble opinion, that the way I see it around me. But I think organizations are aware of that, definitely. And of course, it's affecting their results and the way they do things. And everyone is trying to a higher or a lower degree to do something about it. However, I would take everything with a pinch of salt, because I think that we are all right now, all of us, in a very changing environment where no one reacts normally, because no one knows how to react. So everyone is finding ways, proper ways. So we are in a sort of a test what's the best way to react in such situations, because we are in a sort of, still the after the pandemic, with a higher level of anxiety, with a big insecurity. We had a war beginning this year next to us, threats about the economic situation and everything. So I think that what's happening right now is not necessarily relevant for long term. It's rather a way of adapting to we don't know what, because we don't know what's coming next. So I think that organizations are trying their best to find ways to, increase morale for people, even though sometimes not even the managers know how to increase their own morale, because this is what's happening. It's affecting all of us. And some of the strategies that I've seen in place so far were rather related to, and putting a bit more accent on this well-being side. It's encompassed under the big well-being umbrella, benefits, flexible benefits, in such a way that, I don't know, maybe we cannot assist you, but look, we have access to some psychological coaching, counseling services that can be offered. These are some other benefits that you can have in order to, handle and adjust the situation. And I think that even the fact that some organizations are still working remote and adapting their benefits depending on teams, and it's a big step forward as compared at least to 4 years ago. What I think it's also that on one part, organizations are doing something about it. I think it's also something that we should do about it personally, each of us, because I think it's our responsibility as well, how happy we are in our jobs, in our lives and everything. And talking about that, there is one of the few studies done on happiness, and it's actually with some interesting conclusions. It's called the search of, it's not the search of happiness, but anyhow, it's Sonia Lyubomirsky is the How of Happiness. It's the name of the book. And she actually generated the results with a lot of details, of course, but very basically and briefly. 50% of our happiness indications are coming from genetics and from the chemistry of the body and everything. 10% related to circumstances, and around 40% related to our actions. And I'm always saying about that to my candidates who are saying, I'm very unhappy, I need to leave the job. And I'm saying, is that 10% really? I mean, if you're moving, let's look if it's nothing else that you can do before, reacting emotionally about it. Because you'll be changing something. Make sure that it's not a very emotional decision before you try to change your circumstances, which will only, in 6 months, you'll be at the same level of unhappiness. So let's try to do something about it before reacting emotionally. Sorry, that's a subject that I like, with the way we treat ourselves as well, not only the way organizations are treating us.
You don't have to be sorry, because in these days we look at customer experience starting from the employee experience, and this is the way that we build, let's say, the development of employee journey and of the customer journey. And Madalina, I'm sure that we will have more questions to you, and you will share some answers from Michael, and you'll see why. I would like very much to introduce at this moment Michael Brand. Michael Brand. Michael, I will let you present yourself. I don't want to miss any of the good things that you are doing, from making customer experience strategies and to being one of the ambassadors and founding member of European Customer Experience Organization, with all the events you organize on the weekly basis. So Michael,
thank you.
Please.
So thank you very much, Adrian. Thank you very much for the invitation to participate today. And thank you for allowing me to do this in English. I appreciate that's not your local language, and I appreciate you making this accommodation for me. So yes, my name is Michael Brandt. I started working many years ago in the airline business. And then I moved to ABB, an engineering company where I spent 25 years until April of 2020, at which point I left ABB and decided to set up my own consultancy, CX Excellence. And also around about the same time, I became a founder member of the European Customer Experience Organization, as Adrian pointed out. The European Customer Experience Organization, it's basically an organization, a forum, a community of CX practitioners that can come together and exchange views, information, knowledge, ask questions. And also we organize various events, such as tea sessions, where we generally try and find a renowned CX guru. I hate that word, but gurus. Someone like Shep Hyken or Ron Kaufman. They've been guests. And then, as Adrian said, I organized up till now bi-weekly, so fortnightly ECXO CX Q&A, where I invited ECXO members to come and discuss various topics. Adrian will be my guest in 2 weeks' time, and I'm looking forward to that very much. And he mentioned the one that I did this morning on data analytics, and that was a particular pleasure for me because my co-host actually happened to be my son, so who's big in data analytics. So that was a particularly pleasant experience for me, and I hope for him too. So that's me in a nutshell. So can I start my presentation?
Yes, Michael. Please feel free to. You can present. I think you have the permission.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let me just. Okay.
Sure.
Do you see the slide or not?
Not yet.
No. Okay. Hold on. Let's do this. There we go. Just a minute.
Just a simple share screen. It's working.
Yeah, I know, but then it changes me. It moves the wrong one. Hold on, just a minute.
Now I'm just wondering if
computers. This is it. Computers, they have a mind of their own, so they like to show it on the. Okay, and now I've lost the. Just a minute. Screen 2.
So,
okay.
Michael,
you see it now?
We can see it. Yes,
great.
We can.
Okay. So you see a bit of a techno klutz. It's my age giving me away here. So basically, the question I'm asking is digitalization preventing your staff from being customer centric? And I'd like to go, before we start, I'd like to go back a little bit on my past, because that is actually, it basically helped me to come to the conclusions that I've come to. So right at the beginning of my career, I spent 4 years as in airline management. My last position was as station manager of a TWA at Munich's old airport, TWA being the old American airline. It doesn't exist anymore. It was bought out by American Airlines. And then I spent 25 years with ABB in global customer-facing management roles, starting in technology transfer and ending as head of customer experience and complaint management. And then I founded my own consultancy. And the basic things that I found out during my career have been, one, how important empathy is. And this was particularly when I was in the airline business and standing in the check-in, and people would come along, they'd miss flights. They were traveling because they were going to a funeral of a loved one or a close relative, or they were going to visit a sick relative, or on the other hand, they might have been going for a wedding or some other joyous occasion. And of course, you might have had a mother traveling with her children by herself. And in all these cases, it was important to be empathic, to understand why the customer, why the passenger might be behaving the way they were. The second lesson that I learned, and this I learned when I was in Japan, I spent 7 years in Japan as president of a joint venture company there, that customer service is a culture. If you've ever been to Japan, if you've ever seen or experienced customer service Japanese style, it's really mind-blowing. And the culture shock going from Switzerland to Japan was far easier than coming back from Japan to Switzerland, because we'd been spoilt so much in Japan. It really is in the DNA of people there, whether it's in retail or in B2B. You go out of your way to make your customer satisfied, and if you don't, then it's a major failing. And you can see that on people's faces that they really feel this. And the third thing I learned is that it's all about people. And I have to come back to Madalina's comment on, tools and people. Tools can't paper over the cracks of a bad culture, right? If you have a tool, that's not going to fix any problems that you've got. Ultimately, it's the people that'll fix the problems. The tool is just a means to an end. But if you have a foundation which is built on a culture which is not customer centric, then the tool isn't going to make any difference. It's not going to fix the problem. So, how often have you been told, specifically in the past years, the computer won't let me do that, or I can't override the system, or my computer is telling me something? And then think about the impact that has on employee experience and employee sentiment. How do you like it if you're in a position where you want to do something, but you have handcuffs on, or you're tied to a specific process, and it won't let you do something, even if you know that what you want to do is the right thing? And that is where digitalization sometimes affects, how we behave and what we do. Here's giving my age away again, right? So when I first started out in my career, an airline ticket was something that was handwritten on a piece of paper. And the boarding pass was very, very simple. It was very basic. And very often your seat number was actually a sticker that was put on a check-in. There was no advanced seating. And you had also the problem when customers came, there was smoking and no smoking. So you might have had seats available in no smoking, but no seats left in the smoking section. It wasn't automated, it was very manual. And yes, it was very personnel staff intensive. Nowadays, you buy a ticket online, you get an e-ticket on your phone, it's computer generated, and you get a boarding pass on your phone. You don't actually have to talk to anybody. And the fare is worked out by the computer. You basically pick your flight, it gives you fare options. Do you want to take baggage with you? Do you not want to take baggage with you? Do you want to be able to have a refund or no refund? Everything's worked out for you immediately on the computer. Back in the days of paper tickets, someone would sit at a desk and they would work out what the fare was. And they'd be looking at a big book called an OAG. I still remember the name. And they would be looking up the fares, and they would be looking up the fare conditions manually. And of course, this took a lot of time and mistakes were made. But this is how it was. And obviously, we've progressed a lot since then. The question is, right, is everything better? right? So he said these manual operations, time-consuming for passengers and staff. There were longer queues, and that put more pressure on the frontline staff, and it was more irritating for customers. And of course, there were more errors. People made mistakes. But there was a flexibility to override the system if required. There were no problems for people who were technologically challenged, who had problems working computers, smartphones, or iPads or tablets. And there was more customer contact. Staff actually spoke to customers. There was an opportunity at check-in to actually make a difference, or on the ticket line to actually make a difference. And one of the things that I'd like to maybe focus on is the flexibility to override systems if required. When I was station manager, you would get passengers who would come along and they would have missed the flight. They turned up 20 minutes late, maybe there was a traffic jam or who knows whatever. They turned up late, they couldn't get on the flight. And very often these passengers had tickets that had restrictions on them, that they were only valid on a specific flight. And you'd look at this family of four and you'd look and see what happened, you know, that the car broke down, or there was an accident on the highway and there was a traffic jam, and that happened a lot in Munich. And basically, you know, I could override the system. I could say, okay, look, come back tomorrow, and if I've got seats on the flight tomorrow, I'll take you. Nowadays, with the way that tickets are worked out, it's a lot more difficult for staff to do that, because you go into the computer, you want to change the flight, change the ticket, and the computer will tell you, not possible, because this ticket doesn't meet those fare conditions. The only thing you can do is sell them a new ticket. And somehow, I know that wouldn't sit well with me, as I was at the time, trying to be the empathic soul that I was trying to be. One other thing was, for instance, I can give you an example. One day I was actually closing out the flight, so it meant that I was actually on the plane as they closed the doors and signed off the flight. And I'm just about to leave the aeroplane, and one of the cabin crew comes to me and says, "We've got a problem. We've got duplicate seating." So I said, "Okay, let me have a look." So I went back, and there was a gentleman, an adult, and he was sitting next to a mother and her child. Now, the child was 2 years old. The child had his own boarding pass, so was entitled to his own seat. And it was a computer error, or I don't know why, but anyway, we had two people that were supposed to be sitting on the same seat. So our flight went from Munich to Paris, and then from Paris, then there were lots of other wide-body flights, long-distance flights that went to the US, so Boston, New York, Chicago, Los Angeles, whatever. So there was this lady traveling with her 2-year-old son and this adult, and they had to get to Paris, which was a 1 hour 20 flight. So I tried to think of a solution, and I said to the lady, I said, "Okay, madam, if you take your son on your lap for this short flight to Paris, then I will make sure that for your flight to Boston, you're upgraded to business class." And the woman grabbed her child, put him on the seat, put him on her lap. The gentleman had his seat, and everybody was happy. They got to Paris, and the lady and her son were upgraded to business class on their way to Boston. The problem was solved. Everybody was happy. When I got back to the office, one of my agents told me, "Michael, we've got a problem. We have one boarding pass too many. Our aeroplane can only take 114 people, and we have 115 boarding passes. We have one person too many." And I said, "Yep, I know. It's a young boy, 2 years old. Don't worry about it. It's fine. Just, the flight will go." Nowadays, that wouldn't happen. because the boarding passes are checked at the gate. And if you have too many boarding passes, the system won't allow you to close out the flight. So ultimately, it would have meant that we would have had to leave somebody behind. And that is not really customer friendly, if you think about it. So these automated operations, they limit the ability for staff to work outside the rules due to the system parameters. Obviously, they're also more difficult for the tech challenged. But clearly, you know, from a business perspective, they're less staff intensive, quicker for most customers, they're more efficient, and they're less error prone. So there are a lot of things going in favor of automated operations. The question is, you know, the companies, what they have to do, they have to weigh up the pros and the cons. And they have to say, okay, where's the middle ground here? Do I want to go fully automated, or do I also want to offer possibilities for people who have problems, people who are technologically challenged, and people who just can't manage computers, smartphones, things like that. And also, you know, one also has to bear in mind people who have disabilities. So people who are visually challenged, right, who have difficulty seeing, you know, those kind of things, that's also very important to cater for them. And sometimes these are things that companies tend to forget. I was talking to someone this morning, we were talking about chatbots, right? And they said, you know, chatbots, for somebody who's visually impaired, this is very difficult. There has to be support for people who can't manage a chatbot, and it's not always available. And we also know how difficult it is sometimes to reach companies via telephone. They make it very difficult to reach them and speak to a human being. And this is precisely what I'm saying, is that digitalization has its limits, beyond which actually it starts to become counterproductive and the opposite of customer centric. But at the same time, you know, let us you know, talk about the effect that it has on the employees, right? Staff need to have room to remain empathic and the ability to remain human, right? Generally, people go to work wanting to do a good job. They want to help people. They want to be good people. And sometimes digitalization takes this away from them because they're bound by processes, by computer systems that they cannot override. And I think this is something where we really need to make an effort on a company level to bear this in mind. And I'm not saying that we have to ditch digitalization, not at all. Digitalization and automation are totally have totally progressed business. But I think we need to really think hard and strong about where it's appropriate and where we need to have alternative channels in order to be customer centric. So staff empowerment makes sense, first of all, because it allows them to actually fix issues. And that, of course, makes the customer happier. But of course, also, it makes staff happier. You know, I've seen people go into a customer and solve a problem. You know, if you've got a customer who's complained and you go to the customer with a solution, the customer's so happy, right? And the person who's gone into that customer to solve the issue comes out feeling so motivated, you know, that they went in there, they were able to solve the customer's problem. The customer was happy, recognized the effort that had been made, and people like to be recognized. They like to feel that they've done something good. And so I think it makes a lot of sense to really think about, even in highly automated and digitalized industries, you know, where we can find a place for staff to make that difference on a day-to-day basis. So I'm ready to answer your questions. By the way, if anybody wants to reach me or connect with me on LinkedIn, please do. I'm always happy to connect with other CX practitioners and people who are passionate about customer and employee experience.
Thank you, Michael. So I will start reading the questions. We do have questions for you. And I will start with Carmen.
Yeah.
The question is, digitalization gives to company managers more control and insight on the number and profit and so on and so and so, speaking about the KPIs. However, depending on the companies empowering their people to do some gesture for the customer impact, these numbers make them lose a part of this control, because it is difficult to follow the track of that is being done, and it is also difficult for the employees to explain their decisions. This is a question. How can big companies overcome the challenges? So how can big companies overcome this challenge if they want to become customer-centric?
I'm going to probably give an answer now, which would make any CFO, chief financial officer, cringe. I think it's a question of trust. When I was in I did Swiss military service, and one of the things that was drilled into me is trust is good, control is better, right? But actually, I disagree with that. I think in a corporate environment, I think that if your staff if you have a strong employee engagement, if staff really identify with the company, then I think companies need to trust them to do the right thing. I think there are, if you Google this, there's quite a few stories online, examples where you'll see that the staff were given this ability to do the right thing. And the company actually found out that the amount of money that they were spending on fixing these problems actually decreased, because while staff felt empowered to do things when it was absolutely necessary, they were also very careful about how they spent this money and almost treated it like their own. And so it had a great effect on the employees. It also had a good effect on the customer experience. And it also worked as from a bottom line perspective. So I think, sometimes we need to trust our staff more, but we have to be sure that we have the right culture in place in order for that to work. So there has to be a relatively high employee engagement and employee identification with the company.
Yeah, so Michael, I fully agree with your especially last comment, because culture, it is extremely important. Values of the company, if they are embedded, not only put on the walls, they are making the difference. And I would like very much to give an example, to comment with an example. We have recently, Gabriela, myself, and one of our partners, we've been part of a project where the company simply reversed the pyramid, the structural pyramid. They put, instead of the CEO, customers on the top. What did happen? Normally, when you ask from customers the feedback, or previously when you are asking customers the feedback was going to marketing, was going to the, let's say, to the top levels of the company. What this company did, it was a reverse pyramid of and the flow of the information. They send the information received from customer directly to the lower levels, let's say lower levels, to the area managers and the customer-facing staff. They start understanding the issues coming from customers. They start discussing about them. They start looking for solutions, and they ended in the transmitting to the company the initiatives the company should put in place to change the strategy, to adjust the strategy. And it was a fantastic example of reverse pyramid of the decisions from the people which are close to the customer. But the company, as you said, had a very strong culture. It was a company with very good values, very good control also previously, which proved to the company that they need to do something else than only control.
Sure.
Yeah.
I think it's really important for staff to see customer feedback. And when I was head of the Voice of Customer program for ABB, when I took over in 2012, there was a discussion about whether we should make the customer feedback visible to staff. And we decided, yes, that we had to. And so anybody who had access to ABB's corporate network was able to log in and see all the feedback that customers gave us, whether it was negative, positive, and not only for their own unit, but for the whole company. So really there was, it sent a message, first of all, that we wanted, the feedback to be very transparent. We wanted everybody to see it. And it also sent a message that we trusted our staff with this information, because, some of the people said, well, if we give customer feedback to all our staff, surely maybe they could post it somewhere, or they could tell somebody, and that, might be good information for a competitor. But none of that happened, right? I think staff realized that this was, some of it was sensitive information, and it all stayed in-house. And we never had to take any measures and I think it was important for staff to see exactly what our customers thought about us, unfiltered. And I think it was great, because that helped change the attitude. I have to say, we could be a little bit arrogant sometimes. And that helped to dispel that arrogance, because then people saw, rather than assume that the customers loved us, they actually saw what the customers really thought about us, and it wasn't always flattering, So I think it was a good move.
We humans, we managers, let's say by nature, we intend to look at the issues first, and if there are 2% of issues, we focus on these 2 issues without or forgetting that there are 98% of good stuff that we are doing. And if customer feedback is positive, it's good to get, not only customer, because employees are customers, customers are customer, and our employees should listen for positive feedbacks. I would open the door for a debate, which it's a never-ending debate, and it is making a link between Madalina's presentation and your presentation. So we talk about digitalization. Is it good? Is it bad? Definitely, it's good as the organization requires, as good as, let's say, the industry requires, the type of product and service offered by the company. However, in my view, to get to the point where a company will drive culture, to get to the point of what you just said, Michael, I think that the key element, it is the induction in the company. So regardless to what recruiters, how good job recruiters are doing, regardless to all the features offered by the company, everything you offer, digitalization, the culture of the company, the link between recruitment and getting onboarded properly, which in my opinion, onboarding, it's not the second day of work, it is after a few days. This part of induction, it is extremely important. What is your opinion, Madalina and Michael, on regards to the digital induction? Because we are moving slowly to a digital induction, and I honestly saw a very good program of TeamViewer, who during the pandemic period, they not only made induction digital, but they also acquired 2 companies. So during pandemic, TeamViewer acquired 2 companies, and they tripled the size of their business. making it everything digital, but they succeeded fantastically. What is your view on digital induction of the business?
Madalina, you go first.
Thank you. I'm a bit subjective because I know how it's done digitally. The tool that we are representing on the market has the onboarding some part as well. So I've seen it implemented. The way I see generally all these kind of things, including the onboarding, is taking off the burden of repetitive things that are actually taking off from the human. They have no value in the human interaction. Exchanging papers and making sure that you bring all the documents and you tick all the boxes of the induction training that is a must-have by law, and all kind of ticking all the putting in all. So I think it's very useful in the sense that, and I think that usually any digitalization initiative, it's useful if it's used the proper way. I mean, taking off this stuff where I don't add value and allow me the time to add really value. I mean, like talking to the person, interacting, connecting, understanding what's his view on things, which is the impression of the first week of interacting with the organization. This kind of, fine stuff that actually have to do with the human interaction. And I loved what Michael was saying a bit earlier, exactly about this, that we should be allowed, and people are allowed, I think, by automation, to be more creative, because they are not spending that much time in repetitive tasks. So they can spend more of their time and use their mind more for, really, having a better relationship and better interaction with the others. I don't know what's your view on this, Michael.
No, I agree absolutely. I think that this kind of program, like e-learning, and it absolutely has its place. And in many cases, it also, rather than classroom training, it has the advantage that it can be done when it's convenient. So everyone can do it at their own pace. Within certain limits, obviously, if we're talking about onboarding, but when it's convenient. Right. So I think that's important in today's business environment. But I don't think ultimately a company culture is not created by e-learning sessions. The company culture is created by people. Right. So when somebody joins a company, what do? They look to see how their new colleagues are acting. They look to see how the managers are acting. Right. So you can have something in the e-learning session which says this is the way we behave. But if as soon as that person looks up and sees that everybody's doing something else, then they're going to do what the other people are doing, not what's in the e-learning. Right. So I think, it does take a lot of the burden off, but it doesn't absolve the organization from the responsibility of still nurturing and cultivating the culture, because that is still something that people do, not machines. Definitely.
But I was looking at this from this perspective because I was looking at the AI, impact and the increase in our lives and everything. And I've seen some studies which are showing that the more technology we are using, the more we need human interaction. So actually, the presence of automation and processes, autonomous or automized processes, actually increases the need for human interaction.
Right. It's interesting.
Great, thank you. We don't have any more questions, and I think that we are heading towards the end of our session. I would like to ask you if you, Madalina and Michael, you have any question to our customer experience community. You can address the question, and we will send you the answers when we'll get them.
Or maybe live, if some of them are willing to answer live right now to us, which
gladly.
I would like to have the chance of a dialogue. For me, it would be interesting to understand how did the customer mentality and reactions change since the introduction and the rise of automation and of AI. And I would like to understand that from the perspective of someone who is handling the whole process and all the whole relationship with the customer. So how do you perceive from inside that the customers have changed since this? And which are the main challenges? Anyone willing to answer now?
So Gabi, if you can open the lines for everybody.
Very shy.
So guys, feel free to raise the hand and answer to Madalina's question. Please, Carmen, do it. Carmen Belcescu.
Hello, Madalina. Hello, Michael. Hello, Adrian and Gabriela. Thank you for all this great information I received here. So I think, Madalina, there are two, from my point of view, I think there are two perspectives. The small companies which don't have all the digitalization put in place, and the big companies, the corporation. So for the small companies, people, the customers are expecting what they have seen, or they are expecting the automation that they receive from the big companies. So they put pressure on the small companies. For example, you go to the dentist. Let's take an example, a small company, you go to the dentist and you wait for an SMS or a message with the next appointment. Which if it's not digital, for the SaaS companies, for the small companies, the corporation have all this put in place. So you are used to it. It's normal right now to receive messages, to receive confirmation, to receive it all online. But for small companies, at least here local where I'm working, you have to implement that because customers are waiting for that. So I think from this point of view, yes, this is changing. Customers, so the bar is high. So the customers are used to something, and they are always expecting more. So I don't know if I answered to this.
You did, thank you. That's a big challenge for the small organization. I can imagine.
It is.
I haven't thought about that previously, because that could be a too big cost for a small organization to afford such a system.
Yes. This is a problem. Thank you.
Thank you too.
Thank you.
The most daring one, Carmen. Thank you, Carmen.
Well,
Yeah, I have a question. Maybe I'll have more luck. I don't know. Customer journey mapping is something that I think is very important, but not everybody does. I'd like to know if the CX practitioners who are here, if they think that since the pandemic and all the other problems that the world has gone through over the past couple of years, whether customer journey mapping has become more important given the constant changes in the market environment.
Before having a volunteer to answer the question, I would like very much to say I'm happy to say that the customer experience Romania and especially Gabriela has just finished last week. Gabriela, am I correct? A masterclass, a customer experience masterclass with 4 modules. The last one being with customer journey mapping. And now Gabriela, she is preparing for another session to be held next week. Yeah. Okay.
Excellent. So that I know that I'm preaching to the converted here. Then, so that's.
Yeah, but it will be very nice getting feedback from our colleagues.
Mm-hmm.
Or Gabriela.
Yes, if no one want to answer to these questions, yes, I can confirm that the interest on customer journey mapping is higher in the last 3 years. And I'm seeing that not only for customer journey mapping, but also for employee journey mapping, because I've seen that HR departments, they want to build their internal procedure on HR based on employee journey mapping, and starting with recruitment until exit, they are building step by step the employee journey mapping in order to offer to their employees stability and also predictability of what will happen with them during their journey with the company, in order to know what they have to do in order to exceed on other jobs, to be promoted, or what they have to learn in order to get some abilities. And concluding with this, yes, it is a higher interest on this.
I'm glad to hear that. That's good.
Yeah.
And I'm also happy to hear that you get questions from HR departments who are planning their processes from the beginning with the customer experience side in mind. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Good. So, guys, I propose you to close today's session. I think it was extremely full of information. We will send you the feedback from our colleagues. And to our colleagues from the Romanian Czechs community, I would like to inform you that in December, we will have a very short session just to cheer the events and cheer the successes of our professionals and the Romanian companies. And no later than next week, we will inform you when this session will take place. So Madalina and Michael, thank you so much for the presence today. Thank you for very much for preparing such a powerful materials. Thank you so much, and hope to see you very soon together with our colleagues from the Romanian professionals Czechs community.
I thank you very much for the invite.
Thank you very much for the invitation. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye. Have a nice evening.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.